As one can imagine, a relationship that involves one or more asexuals tends to be quite different from the traditional romantic and sexual relationships that many people are familiar with. Just like any other relationship, there are challenges that can arise in this setting, but at the end of the day, all it boils down to is honest and open communication. With a large portion of asexuals experiencing romantic attraction, it should come as no surprise that many asexuals want to form romantic relationships. There are many variations of relationships that involve asexuals and those on the asexual spectrum, and today we'll discuss some of the most common forms. This certainly isn't a definitive guide, and in the end, members of any relationship should discuss what works best for them. One type of romantic relationship that generally seems to be ideal for asexuals is one in which two asexuals are in a romantic relationship together. There usually isn't any sexual compromise, but with people who identify as asexual being as uncommon as they are, and with few active dating sites that support this option, finding another asexual to be with can be difficult. Since sexual compatibility is far from the only component in a romantic relationship, the likelihood of two asexuals finding each other, liking, trusting, and getting along with each other becomes quite small. Because of this, most asexuals who are interested in a romantic relationship inevitably end up with a non-asexual partner, simply because the asexual dating pool is so small. In this case, both people in the relationship have to do what any other relationship requires: figure out the individual needs of both people and compromise where necessary. Compromises usually include at least one of the following: negotiating on the type and frequency of sexual activity, agreeing on an open relationship where both involved can seek out other partners to fulfill their sexual and romantic desires, or participating in a polyamorous relationship where it is acceptable for both asexuals and non-asexuals to have multiple intimate partners at once. With the first option, compromising on the type and frequency of sexual activity, it's commonly, though mistakenly, thought that the asexual is the only one who must compromise in order to make the relationship work, usually by figuring out how to tolerate sex. This arrangement is generally harmful to both parties, as a relationship will not easily work well if only one member is compromising. It shouldn't be seen as anyone's fault for sexual tensions within this kind of relationship. The problem isn't that the asexual has too little desire for sex, nor is the problem that the non-asexual has too much desire for sex. The problem is that these people may have very different sexual needs. Rather than blaming the asexual or the non-asexual for sexual incompatibility within a relationship, both parties should recognize that they have different desires for sex, and that compromise and honest communication should come from both of them. In some cases, a non-asexual with sexual desires is willing to dismiss their desires or give up sex for the asexual. They may choose to abstain from sex or find other outlets to release sexual tensions and satisfy sexual urges. These can include masturbation or indulging in erotic material, though other options certainly exist. In other cases, an asexual will agree to infrequent, occasional, or regular sexual activities, depending on their interest in sex and their tolerance toward it. Sometimes the non-asexual member of a relationship can be fully satisfied by physically intimate activities, such as kissing, cuddling, or massaging, or physically intimate play that is substitute for actual sexual intercourse. Petting, stimulating a partner's genitals, or using sex toys instead of one's body to engage in sexual activity, just to name a few possibilities. For asexuals who are sex repulsed, engaging in sexual activity usually isn't an option. If their partners aren't willing to give up sex, other options can be pursued. Another option that can work well for many people is an open relationship. A relationship where any member who is willing to can pursue other people to satisfy romantic and sexual desires. This must be a decision that all people in the relationship mutually agree to. No one should feel pressured to open up their relationship if they don't feel comfortable doing so, and clear-cut boundaries such as the type of romantic and sexual contact allowed, as well as when and where this contact can take place, can certainly be established. An asexual can also be part of a polyamorous group, which is a group where all members can have more than one intimate relationship at a time, with the full knowledge and consent of everyone involved. This allows any asexual in the group to be satisfied romantically, without feeling pressured to act sexually, as any non-asexual who wishes to engage in sexual activity can seek out anyone else who wishes to participate. Romantic relationships aren't the only types of committed relationships a person can have. Anyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, can form relationships that are long-lasting, devoted, intimate, and loving, yet non-romantic and non-sexual in nature. People in these relationships may live together, be physically affectionate of one another, and support each other in ways similar to more traditional romantic relationships, despite not experiencing sexual or romantic attraction towards one another. It's easy to assume that people in these relationships are just friends, and therefore these relationships are inferior to romantic and sexual relationships. However, romance and sex are only two components of a wide variety of characteristics that can be present in meaningful and committed relationships. So it makes little sense why they should have a monopoly on high levels of caring over platonic feelings. Devaluing friendship also serves to devalue romantic and sexual relationships, as most of those relationships are successfully built upon solid and strong friendships. Even if some of these platonic relationships are just friendships, the absence of romance and sex does not lessen the level of caring, devotion, affection, trust, and love people in these relationships can have for one another. Intimacy, affection, respect, support, and love can be and are found in friendships and any other types of platonic relationships that exist in significant amounts, and yes, even with the complete lack of romantic and sexual components. It is very possible for asexuals and those on the asexual spectrum to find others who have similar sexual interests as them, or who are willing to work with them in order to achieve happiness for all involved. Despite what some may believe, not every non-asexual considers sex an essential part of a relationship. There are those who are very willing to give up sex within a relationship, since experiencing sexual attraction does not determine how much one desires sexual activity, nor does it determine how important sex is to someone. Not all asexuals are sex repulsed or indifferent to sex either. Some can enjoy and be completely fine with having sexual activity in a relationship. If sexual needs are outlined and all members make the effort to engage in honest and respectful communication, a relationship with an asexual is going to be perfectly a-okay. Today we discussed how many asexuals form romantic relationships with other people, and how asexuals can have difficulty finding suitable partners also on the asexual spectrum. We went over the types of sexual compromises that are possible in a relationship that includes an asexual, depending on their desire for sex, their tolerance towards sex, and the type of relationship that they desire, and some of the types of relationships: open relationships, polyamorous relationships, and platonic relationships that are available for anyone and everyone to form. We've included links for a number of dating sites that accommodate asexuals in the description below if you're interested in checking those out. You can post any questions you have about asexuality in the comments below, and as always, our team will do our best to answer all of those questions. Thanks for watching, and remember, everything's a-okay.